here. All right, we are on. All right, so this is, I call the Town of Sangerville Board of Selectmen special meeting to order at 6:30 p.m. March 2nd. Let's rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Does anyone have the sign-in sheet? Has everyone done it? Who's missing it? Oh, yeah. Go ahead, Melissa.
Okay, so item 2, approval of minutes, none. Item 3, review of treasurer's warrants, none. Item 4, open session, none. Committee reports, none. So we're at unfinished business. Item 6A, 2017 budget. I'd like to have one of you make the motion listed on the paper. Does anybody want to make that motion?
Make a motion to approve the budget as the budget committee is presented to the board.
Okay, that would be Dale. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Any discussion?
Nope.
Then let's take a vote. That's 3-0. All right, item B, Gray Road. One of you want to make the motion?
I will.
Okay.
Gray Road motion, the board motions for the town manager to proceed forward with the work on the Gray Road in the spring of 2017 per the original agreement with Mr. Lance Burgess.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, any further discussion? Okay, let's take a vote. That would be 2 with 1 opposed.
What was that?
2 with 1 opposed. I'm opposed.
Okay.
Item 7, new business, none. Justin's our deletions. We have a draft for R.H.R. Smith. I'd like to make a motion that we instruct the town manager to sign it for the board. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Let's take a vote. That's 3-0. No additional agenda items, no board of assessors, no executive session. The ongoing projects are listed, but we are not discussing them.
I would just like to mention a correction on item C that was brought to my attention. I had a typo there, and that should have said March on that. But
Okay. Okay.
yeah, and that should have been today's date, 2nd.
Okay.
So
All right, so item 13, setting the next meeting on March 16th, 2017 at 6:30. I make a motion that we do that. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All right, let's take a vote. All right. Okay. Item 14, other business none. Make a motion to adjourn at, hey, you're gonna love this, 6:34.
That might be a record. Second.
Let's take a vote. And we're out at 6:34.
I didn't order my pizza soon.
This is how you have a meeting, people. Get in, get out, before we can get into
I
trouble.
hope everything was organized. I want to let the board know that I did get the budget typed in, and you will find yourself what our Trio system is for here. And this is the budget that we did the other night. And I went ahead and keyed it into Trio. It took Alvina and I about 4 hours to get this done today. But I want you to see the possibilities of what we pay for our software license over the Excel. And the biggest problem was that most of the things on the Excel did not match up perfect to this with the wording. So the wording in Trio will be changed so everyone can understand this when they see this, okay? But this right here, if you review this, have questions, I'll show you how to read it, but this is an incredible document. So,
One other thing, if I could just add, talking about
Yes,
software,
yes.
because I have heard our
And your
projected
revenues are in
budget
there.
at the hospital for the next, potentially for the next 5 years, 8 years, for that, our little hospital, potentially is as high as $20 million just for software. And what's going to go up, just so everybody hears, one of the concerns, because we are having financial issues, as you all know, at the hospital, we are looking seriously, or are in, not in negotiations, but in basic talks now to an Eastern Maine affiliation. we want to maintain our independence within reason. The questions that are going to come up is, do we keep the HAD? I asked, what effect does it have on Sangerville? Because theoretically, if they dissolve the HAD, theoretically, any items that are out there with regard to bond issues, we might be responsible for to the tune of $143,000. I found out from the attorney when I called him at the hospital, in fact, we're not. We're dissolved, we're not responsible for that. So part of that affiliation, whether it comes about, the study that was done from Stroudwater showed if the hospital didn't do something within 3 to 5 years, we won't have a hospital anymore. So, you know, that's a reasonable thing. And I'll keep everybody up to date on that. The other item, which is a serious item, and it'll be interesting, everyone in town needs to think about it, is the EMS service and the ambulance service. We lost last year on the ambulance service $670,000. So one of the thoughts that I had as our representative was maybe we should be looking at privatizing it. Maybe capital wants to buy it, we could do a lease, whatever, I don't know. One of the concerns that I have is they're potentially talking about, okay, let's go to the towns and ask them to pay part of this for the EMS. And I said, well, our use in Sangerville, I'm sure compared to everybody is zip. So if that was to even be considered, it would have to be on a pro-rata basis, because Dexter and Dover obviously use 70% of the ambulance service. So all things that are going to come up with us in terms of potential for cost. But I think if we're smart, we can get away without still participating, but not really having to put anything into the system. I think we've already put into the system. I think our size really protects us. But I think the key is we can't lose the hospital. We've got to have care for our people and access, number one. And number two, you're talking about 414 jobs in our area. So, but I'll keep everybody up to date. Thank you.
I know that I know from just my living here for 7 years in Piscataquis that 3 of my employees, all 3 had heart attacks, and all of them went to Mayo, and all of them are alive today for that. And that's because they're right here.
Yeah.
So
There's no question. And I think what really makes sense, we now have a $3 million. We have a $3 million building, or $2 or $3 million building that's sitting here in Sangerville.
yeah,
You got Greenville on one side, you've got Mayo on the other. If Eastern Maine, in my opinion, was smart, and I think Michelle Hood, who's running the show down there, is very smart, I would regionalize and have a county system. I mean, they could, instead of going all the way to Bangor, which they do from Greenville now because they're part of the Eastern Maine system.
Yeah.
You could have Mayo getting more beds filled. You could have everybody working together in the clinic. Patients would have more of a choice of physicians and PAs. You'd have a centralized system. The cost would go down. I mean, I think it would work beautifully. So that's been my proposal, and I'm hoping we can work on it. So
sounds great.
thanks for your time.
You're welcome.
All right, so I'm